It's your boy Corona Negra. You now tuning in to Gloves Off. You know, shout out to everybody that tunes in and everybody that subscribe and share and comment. I appreciate y'all, man. It takes a lot of work to put this project together. I appreciate all those that come through and get interviewed. You know what I'm saying? I let everybody speak their piece on Gloves Off. You know what I mean? We don't sugarcoat. We don't beat around the bush. We don't bite our tongue. Just because I'm interviewing somebody does not mean I agree with what they're saying. I'm just interviewing them and giving them a platform to speak their piece. Just know and understand. On this show, is the person that's speaking. That's their truth. It's not up to me to judge anyone. I hold court in society. Shout out to Bridgeport, Connecticut, man. You know the motherfucking vibes.
My name is Nelson Bernard. I just come home after 32 years and 9 months sentence. I was sentenced to life, and after 30 years and 9 months, it was overturned, so I was released.
That's a blessing. That's a blessing.
Yeah, y'all here in live channel, Gloves Off.
It's your boy Corona Negra. You now tuning in to Gloves Off. On Gloves Off, we don't sugarcoat, we don't beat around the bush, and we don't bite our tongue. I'm sitting here with a great friend of mine that I just recently met. He became family. So, and I know he has a story to tell. This is why I would love for him to share it with y'all. And hopefully, we're not trying to glorify anything. We're not boasting about anything. We're talking about our past, our trials and tribulations, and the reality of life and what we learned from it and how we're trying to move forward. So obviously we have to have some form of past to be able to know where we want to go in the future. So with that being said, I'm going to give this young man an opportunity to introduce himself, talk about his past and how we're here today. So, Gloves Off. State your name to the people.
My name is Nelson Bernard.
And you were born and raised where?
In Bridgeport.
Okay.
Father Panic Village.
Okay. And we were talking prior to this, but the camera didn't cut on, so I'm gonna re-elaborate what we were talking about and then get into it, and I'll chop this up and get rid of it. It'll be good. So okay. We're talking about why we're sitting here having this conversation. So I want to recap. I want to go back to the beginning.
Okay.
Okay. So you stated your name. You stated where you was from, and I sat you down here because I got to get to hear your story. And part of your story was you did a lot of prison time, and for the city of Bridgeport, basically, and you helped shift this city in a way, whether good or bad, whoever is judging. So I would like to ask you about that. So I want to start off with your youth before we build up to that part of your incarceration. When you were younger, what type of household you was raised in?
Well, I was raised in a household of 12 siblings.
Okay.
Raised by one parent, my mother. So at a very young age, growing up in Father Panic Village, it was a struggle. You understand? We're talking back in the 70s, 80s, and so it was a constant struggle. So as a young boy, I didn't commit to crime at first. I was shining shoes.
Okay.
At the train station in Bridgeport. Anybody that knows that area?
Let me hold this for you.
Anybody that knows that area will tell you, kids were hustling back then.
Okay.
So I started to help my mom, you understand, with the struggle, with the household, and being in the project in Father Panic Village. At that time, it was dangerous.
Okay.
You understand? If you wasn't from there, it was even more dangerous. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so I grew around prostitution, murders, drug dealing. Everybody's hustling, trying to make ends meet, trying to make a name for themselves. So, as a young boy, I started selling weed.
Okay.
Yeah, joints. Back then, they still sell joints. So you would get an ounce of weed for like $20.
Wow.
Yeah. You pay $20 for an ounce of weed, roll up the joints, get maybe like 60 joints, and go out and hustle, on my bike and try to make some money. After seeing everything that was going on in that project, after growing up, seeing dead bodies, OD, prostitution, and you see all this, you become somewhat numb to it. You accept the environment and its conditions. You understand? So you yourself are conditioned by your environment. You become subject to it, and you become a product of that environment. So my upbringing was just that, growing up in that environment. And going to reform schools, I went to reform school when I was 11 years old. I went to reform school for selling a car. And that was my first introduction into the system.
Boy Corona Negra, and this is Gloves Off.
It's Corona Negra, no one out there better. Y'all all had your shine, now I'm changing the weather. It's Corona Negra, no one out there better. Y'all all had your shine, now I'm changing the weather. It's Corona Negra, it's Corona Negra, it's Corona Negra, it's Corona.
At 11 years
At
old.
11 years old.
And so you were raised by both parents or
No, one.
one parent?
One parent.
Were all those brothers and sisters in the house?
Yeah,
So how many you said? 12?
12.
12 brothers and sisters?
12 brothers and sisters.
There were one parent. And then
one
at 11
parent.
years
My
old,
mama.
you finally get introduced to the system.
Yeah.
But before that, you're seeing dead bodies, all this stuff.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
All this stuff is going on in this project. Like
Just-
many projects, the Greens, the Terrace, Marina, PT, every project has his history,
Yes, yes.
but none different than the other.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So when you go up in these projects, you're kind of numb to everything that's going on in here. Whether it be murders, people ODs, the prostitution, it becomes a norm. It's normal.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah, that's sad to say it like that, but
It is.
Yeah, yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
But mainly for people of color.
Mhm.
You understand? Black and Latinos being subject to that, it's normal to us. It's like kids growing up in Iraq. You understand? You see a 12-year-old kid carrying AK-14. You understand?
Yeah.
It's normal.
Wow.
Yeah. You know.
So we're in our own little Baghdad.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we was in our own little Baghdad. So growing up in that environment, you become a product.
So
that
what
environment.
age you first get incarcerated? How old were you when you first went to prison?
Corona Negra, no one out there better. Y'all all had your shine, now I'm changing the weather. It's Corona Negra, no one out there better. Y'all all had your shine, now I'm changing the weather. It's Corona Negra, it's Corona Negra, it's Corona Negra, it's Corona.
Prison?
Well,
Or
your first arrest
my first
as
arrest
an adult.
was, I was 16,
Okay. Okay.
and I got arrested for armed robbery and home invasion. That was my first arrest.
Back then, how much time a person would get?
I
for
got
that?
8 years for it. That's my first time I went into Cheshire.
Okay.
I went into Cheshire, and it was called Big Cheshire then. And that was my first experience as an adult going into the system. And it didn't bother me, because when I went in there, it reminded me of where I grew up in the projects. It was the same thing.
What you mean by that? Give me.
What I mean by that is,
the same thing as the project. So ain't nothing changed.
ain't nothing changed. Everybody that you know is in there. Whether it be Bridgeport, New Haven, Waterbury, Danbury, New Britain, everybody from the tribe is in there. You understand?
Yeah.
So when you go in there, you're like at home. It was no different. Everybody sitting there playing cars and playing dominoes, and
Working out.
exercise, shooting shit, smoking weed
Yeah.
in prison, because you get all that in prison.
Yeah.
So it didn't bother you to do time.
So it didn't. So well, back then you didn't have kids and family and stuff like
Exactly.
that. So yeah, I was gonna say it didn't bother you to, but you weren't able to come and go as you please. That was the only problem?
Yeah. Well, but you didn't miss it. That's the mindset.
Yeah.
To go and come as you please, because when you were out there in these projects, you didn't go and come as you please. You were in there.
You stayed in the project.
You stayed in the projects. So
yeah.
you wasn't missing anything, because you didn't have anything.
And some people probably had more in there than out in society.
There you go.
Had more of a rep or anything of the sort.
Yeah, in there.
So now you go into. How old were you when you first got arrested and caught your case to get the 33 year? Well, to do the 33 years, you did a life sentence.
I was 26, maybe 27 years old.
And you go into the system, and you're faced with what kind of charges?
The RICO Act.
You're faced with the RICO Act.
Yeah.
At 26 years old.
Organized crime, racketeering, murders.
And for those that don't know exactly what the RICO Act is, give me a little bit of details pertaining to the RICO Act.
Well, the RICO Act was it was put in place in 1978 for the Hells Angels.
Okay.
Because that was the bikers. It was put in place for them because they were organized.
Okay.
You understand? There were thousands of Hells Angels. So that RICO Act was put in place to arrest these bikers. You understand?
And they used
to arrest
it for
them under organized crime.
Organized crime, okay.
Yeah. The RICO Act is an organized crime act, and it was designed to bring down organizations like that have many members. You understand? And even though it was illegal, it was still passed as an act.
The RICO is illegal, but it still passes as an act?
It was still passed as an act.
Okay, but I don't know what that you mean by that. If it's not, it shouldn't be legal. If it's not legal, why is it passed as an act?
Because let's say me, you, and Buddy Lee commit a crime together, right? That will be organized because there's three of us committing the act.
Okay, committing the act. Okay.
You understand? So that would be organized crime.
Okay.
You understand? So it was brought in to our communities to do just that. Okay, these guys are from such and such gang, Elm Street. Oh, they're a gang. You're organized because you're a gang. You're more than three.
But what if you're just from that side of town? People have been hit with the RICO Act and didn't even know some of the people that was on the list.
All it takes is a phone call.
Okay.
You make a phone call
Mhm.
and call such and such and say, yo, I need an ounce, a key, right? He calls so-and-so and tell him, yo, I need this.
Mhm.
That becomes a RICO Act. All three U's on this wiretap
Mhm.
become organized.
So that's how you got incarcerated and faced with a life sentence, because you was in a phone conversation. Like, what got you indicted?
It's Corona Negra, no one out there better. Y'all all had your shine, now I'm changing the weather. It's Corona Negra, no one out there better. Y'all all had your shine, now I'm changing the weather. It's Corona Negra, it's Corona Negra, it's Corona Negra, it's Corona.
Phone conversation
Phone conversation.
got me indicted. Not just that, but other people talking.
Yes. But the phone conversation is what got them to put the handcuffs on.
Let's say someone that wanted to buy a key,
Mhm.
right? And they call so-and-so and say, well, I'm going to get back to you. Let me call my man. And he calls somebody else,
Mhm.
right? And that somebody else contacts me
Mhm.
and says, yo, no, we need a key. They're
Mhm.
giving us something. And I tell them, go ahead and move. I'm caught up.
Okay.
That simple.
That's simple. Okay, so now at 20 plus years old, you get hit with the RICO Act. You and you're facing multiple charges. So what happens now? What happens? What kind of indictment comes down? Like what when you got sentenced and it's all done and said, what was you hit with?
All right. Organized crime and racketeering. That's the sentence.
Okay.
That's what I hit with. That charge, known as the RICO.
Okay.
Now, all the people that got arrested, right? All these people that get arrested, you're at the top of the chain. They're going to hold you for last. They're going to interrogate all these people that got arrested, and they're going to tell them, listen, we're not after you. We want so-and-so. What kind of information can you give us about him? And then they'll start talking, saying, well, you know, I never met him. Like, some people never met me face to face or nothing. Yeah, well, we heard, you know, all these drugs and all these drug blocks belong to Nelson.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So we're working for this guy, he's working for that guy, he's working for Nelson.
So what organization were they labeling you to be a part of?
Latin Kings.
The Latin Kings.
The Latin Kings.
And were you like were they consider you, so they would consider you the leader,
Yeah.
the head of the Latin Kings?
Absolutely.
And were you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was.
So how did the Latin Kings start?
Well, Latin Kings started in I say 82, 83 in Summers prison.
Okay.
And the reason why this organization started was to teach us about cultural awareness.
Okay.
About,
Elaborate.
Yeah, about our culture as Latino people, where we come from, you know, where is our place in this world? Where is our place in America?
Hmm.
So the organization started to teach us about cultural awareness and being politically conscious about a system that has a oppressed us for so many years. So we were getting educated about that. That's the first thing the organization was about.
And what gave you the idea to come up with this? Were you by yourself? Were you coming up with other friends and y'all said let's do this together? Like what? How did it even spark? Like
The spark of it was we were studying about Black Panthers, Puerto Rican Young Lords, and all these movements. You understand? And even the Nation of Islam, which I was a part of for a long time. So we started getting educated about the system of oppression. You understand?
Okay.
So when we started educating ourselves about this, so we were like, well, we got to stick together. We got to do something for ourselves.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever heard about Operation Bootstrap.
I think I did hear something like that before.
Yeah. Well, what that means is when people, a culture, are challenged to do something for themselves, to strap your boots up and get dirty. Do something for yourself. Don't depend on a system, especially the government system. That's what that was.
Okay.
So we were educated with that. Well, mainly me.
Okay.
I educated myself. And I taught my brothers, you understand, our people about what we have to do.
So you in prison? So it started in prison. The idea of it came in prison. So okay, and how were you back then when you started
I was
it?
26, 27 years old.
26, 27. So Latin King started here in Connecticut. You know, you're in prison. You got a couple of your friends right here. You're like, all right, boom, this is what we gonna do. They all with it, obviously. So now, are you just for Latin? Is it Latin and Black, Latin and Mexican, Latin and Chinese? Like what could
People of color.
People of color?
Period.
Period. So
Whether
Cubans,
you're Italian,
Colombian.
Black, Cuban, Colombian, Dominicans.
Oh, okay,
It
okay.
was people of color in general.
I don't know why. Growing up, I always thought it was just Spanish. I swear. I just thought it was just Puerto Rican. I never knew it was Black until I got older and I'm, in the prison system now.
See, we had a thing about Spanish.
Okay.
I speak Spanish, but I'm not Spanish.
That's
I'm
a fact.
Latino.
That's a fact. That's a
I'm
fact.
Latino.
That's a fact.
I'm African, Arawak, Taino.
hmm
That's what makes my race.
And you know that. See, a lot of, and that's, God bless you. Because a lot of people don't know that. I be telling them that.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people don't know that. Yes, that's
we're
what's
not
up.
Spanish. We speak Spanish.
Yeah, yeah.
But we're not Spanish. We're not from fucking Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you sit here, you got this organ. Did you even think Latin King would get as big as it has got?
No, I didn't. It just was like a wildfire. It just,
Like so how were you able to how many members when you got indicted, how many members were there?
about 37,000.
37,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's an army, okay? So he said members.